you've never made a budget before, then stop where you are, grab your computer, make yourself a cup of tea, and settle in, because today I am showing you step by step how to create a simple budget using Google Sheets. This is my strategy for budgeting as a freelance theater artist. Hi, I'm Alison. I'm a theater director and avid budgeter, and on this channel I talk about budgeting, side hustles, day jobs, and personal finance so that you can live a financially healthy life while still pursuing your creative passions. If that sounds good to you, then make sure to subscribe down below, and if you hit the notification bell, you'll be notified every time I post a new video. So, do you have your computer? Do you have Google Sheets open? Do you have your cup of tea or hot chocolate or whatever beverage that makes you feel good inside? Good. Let's get into it. The first step to creating a simple budget using Google Sheets is to open Google Sheets. Here I have my blank spreadsheet. I'm going to title this May Budget. So let's first make our outline. Under B, we're going to put item. This is line item, which just means category, like groceries, eating out, rent, utilities, things like that. Then here I am going to put planned. So this is at the start of the month, how much you plan to spend in each of your categories. Then here I'm going to put actual. This is your actual spending at the end of the month that you're going to plug in. And then here I'm going to put percentage of income. And then here you're going to do difference. So this is whether you're over or under your budget at the end of the month. A quick note about percentages. I like to include percentages because I use the 50-30-20 budgeting strategy as a guideline for my budget. The 50-30-20 rule of thumb is where you put 50% of your budget towards needs, 30% towards wants, and 20% towards savings. Now remember, these are just guidelines. For me, I alter this to put 50% of my budget towards fixed expenses, 30% towards fluctuating expenses, and 20% towards savings. And since these are just guidelines, please do not feel bad if you are not meeting these percentage suggestions. For me, I can tell you I'm not, okay? My rent right now is like 45% of my income. I'd also like to note that I use a zero-based budget. This means that when you add up my expenses and my savings and subtract that from my income, it comes out to zero. Basically, every dollar of my income has a home in my budget. Now, let's get back to the spreadsheet. First, I'm going to walk you through step by step how to create the budget, but make sure to stay until the end of this video because I'm going to give you some tips on how to personalize this budget and really make it work for you. And remember, if you haven't tracked your spending yet, that's the first step in creating a realistic budget. So I recommend watching my first YouTube video where I talk in depth about how to track your spending. You can also download my free spending tracker. I'll link both of those down below in the description. So back to budgeting as a freelance theater artist. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create your line items. So I'm going to start with income. We're going to write that here, and then you're going to fill in your incomes. For me, I teach online with a company called OutSchool. They're an awesome company. If you're a theater artist or honestly any person who likes teaching and you're looking for a flexible stay-at-home job, definitely check them out. I have a referral link in my description box. I've also started working at my day job that I was at before 2020. And then my other source of income, I'm going to put selling things. I don't know if I'm actually going to do this, so I'm not going to budget anything for it. But I do have a number of things that I want to try to sell on Poshmark and Facebook Marketplace. So then here I'm going to put total income. Next, we have recurring expenses. So these are all of your fixed bills and utilities. So I'm actually going to do a quick thing. I'm going to double click right here between A and B. Look, now it fits. So for me, that is rent, internet, electricity, health insurance, vitamins, Spotify and Hulu, yoga, Headspace. So my Headspace membership is renewing in May. So I am going to make sure to include that this month, but otherwise I want to include it, and Canva Pro. And then here I'm going to put total recurring. Then you have fluctuating expenses. So for me, that is groceries, coffee, shops, eating out, therapy, spending, travel, miscellaneous, and total fluctuating. In the recurring expenses, you might also want to include phone bill if you're not a leech like me. You might want to include things like car insurance, car payments, minimum student loan payments, or minimum credit card payments if you have any of that kind of debt. Other things to include in fluctuating expenses might be things like personal hygiene, or for me, before 2020, I would have an entertainment section so that I could go see a certain number of productions every month. Then here, I'm going to write total expenses. So this is where you're going to add up your fluctuating and your recurring expenses to see what your total expenses are for the month. Now, let's scroll down to the fun part. This is savings. So the first thing you should be saving for is going to be an emergency fund. Then you can put whatever you want. What are your goals? Do you want to save for a car? Do you want to save for a house? Personally, the thought of mowing a lawn makes me want to vomit, which is just to say that owning a house isn't for everyone. That doesn't have to be your goal. Maybe you want to go to Japan. Maybe you want to buy a new computer. This is where you can save towards those goals. So for me, I have long term, which is basically like a new computer and a car. Nothing urgent, but I'm just putting away money towards those things. I have a spending fund. I have a travel fund for traveling, hopefully sometime soon. I have a business fund, which is just for anything that I buy for teaching or for YouTube. I have a cat fund to take care of my cat in case there are any unexpected vet expenses. And I have perhaps the most important thing actually after having an emergency fund is my Roth IRA. So this is where I put money aside to invest for retirement. Then you're going to put total savings plus expenses and difference. So this is where we're going to add everything up and make sure that it comes out to zero. Again, I use that zero-based budget. So we now have the outline for a simple budget on Google Sheets. Next, we're going to make it look a little prettier and then we're going to fill it in. So to make it look pretty, I am going to select and then shift arrow key to highlight. I like to center and bold all of these. Then I'm also going to give them a border. So I'm going to do that by highlighting and then clicking this and giving that a border. Then I'm going to make a border for the income. Border, recurring expenses, same thing, fluctuating expenses, and savings. Now I'm going to add a few more smaller borders. So I'm going to do that here. Let's see, I'm going to do that for total expenses. And then I like to add just an upper line over the like mini category. So fluctuating is part of expenses. So I don't want to totally block it off, but I'm going to add just an upper line. Same thing here. And for income. Actually income, because that's its own category, I'm going to do a border all around. Okay, now we're going to merge some cells and center. So I'm going to do that for income. I'm going to merge, center, and middle align. Total income, I am going to merge and center. Recurring expenses, fluctuating expenses, total expenses, there we go. Savings, and then here, merge, middle align. Now for our planned and actual expenses, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to highlight all of this and format it as money. So we're just going to highlight that and then click this $sign right here. Here, you are going to highlight and form it as a percentage by clicking the percentage. And then here you are going to, again, format as money, as currency. Now you're going to enter in everything. So for me, my planned income is $2,800. And then my day job, I'm just going to put 50. And then here I'm going to put 0. Then here you're going to hit equals sum C2 to C4. That'll give you the total. So again, I'm doing C2 because we have C2 here and then C3 and C4. So by using that formula, it adds up everything between C2 and C4. For actual, I'm actually going to copy and paste this here. So I do that because I like to base my percentage of my income right here. I like to base that off of my actual spending. But I also like to get an idea at the beginning of the month what that percentage is going to look like. So I'm just going to select, copy, paste, and then here, sum, parenthesis, D2 colon D4. Now you're going to do the same thing with all of your expenses. So I am just going to plug that in now. So then again, equals sum, parenthesis, C6 through C14. Then I'm going to copy and paste, parenthesis, D6 through D14. Now let's finish out our expenses with the fluctuating expenses. Here for total expenses, you're going to do sum C23, so that's your total fluctuating, and C15, which is your total recurring. So before we start budgeting for savings, the first thing I want to do is I want to just put in these formulas. So I'm going to do sum C25 to C31. Total savings and expenses equals sum C32, comma C24. Then we're going to do the same thing here. Then difference. So this is going to show you how much money you have left over to put into savings. So you're going to do equals sum, I believe it's D5, which is your total income, minus D33, which is all of your savings and expenses. So as you can see from my budget, I have $750.48 that I can put into savings. Now it equals zero-based budget. So I'm just going to fill in these. So now let's do percentages. For percentage of income, you are always putting everything over your income, which is D5. And again, you want this to be based on your actual income, your actual spending. So I'm going to do equals D2 over D5, equals D3 over D5, equals D4 over D5. And this will always be 100%, equals D5 over D5. Same thing for here, equals D6 over D5. You're just gonna keep on doing this, equals D7 over D5. All right, so as you can see, as of right now, my income 100%. My recurring expenses are 51.56%, which is pretty good considering my rent, again, is almost 44% of my income right now. My fluctuating expenses are 22%, so my total expenses are 73% of my budget, again, which is great. And I'm putting over 25% of my income towards savings right now. Now we're going to do difference. Not to make you feel bad if you go over budget, okay? I don't want that to be the case. What it will do is it will show you if you're consistently over or underspending in a month so that you can adjust your budget accordingly. Maybe like me, you're budgeting $250 for groceries, but every month you see, oh, actually I only spend like $200 on groceries. So then you can plan to put that $50 somewhere else. So for income, if the actual is greater than the planned, that's good. That's what you want to see. So you're going to do equals D2 minus C2. And then for this one, you can just drag it down. And it also dragged down the borders. So I'm just going to quickly fix that by getting rid of all my borders and then re-putting them in. For expenses, if the actual is more than your planned, you want that number to actually be negative. So you are going to do equals C6 minus D6. And then I'm going to drag this down. Now for savings, again, you want the difference to be where if the actual is more than the planned, that's a good thing. You want that to be a positive number. So for savings, again, you are going to do D25 minus C25. All right, there you have it. Now I'm going to show you something cool. So I'm going to select and highlight all of these and do some conditional formatting. So I am going to go to Format and then Conditional Formatting. As you can see, I'm applying this to the entire range. I'm going to say if cells are greater than or equal to 0, then I'm going to make them green. Then I'm going to add another rule. If cells are less than 0, I'm going to make them red. And I'm going to do the same thing with my difference. The last thing we're going to do is, if you want, you can make everything look a little prettier by color coding. So I like to make my income green for money. I think this is pretty standard. So I'm just going to choose green. And then I like to make the totals a shade darker just to make them stand out. So I'm going to do that. Recurring expenses, I'm going to go with blue. Fluctuating, because this is still expenses, I'm going to make it just a different shade of blue. And savings, let's go with orange or whatever color you want. This is your budget. Personal finance is personal. And then this again can be anything you want. I'm just going to make it green again. That's it. Now you have your budget. So now you can actually track your spending. So to track what you're actually spending through the month, you can use my free tracker. Again, that's linked below. You can use an app like Mint. You can also go in and plug it in throughout the month, but just be aware that that will not accurately reflect your percentages and your differences until you get to the end of the month. So my freelance theater artist friends, you have your first budget. That is so exciting. Now remember, personal finance is personal. Now that you have the outline of the simple budget in Google Sheets, make it your own. If percentages are too overwhelming for you, don't include them. I didn't for like my first year and a half of budgeting because I wasn't even trying to focus on the 50-30-20 rule. If someone had told me, oh, you should pay yourself first, put your savings first, and make sure it's 20%, I would have been like, with what money, you know? And then knowing me, I probably would have just been overwhelmed and not even started budgeting. If you're a very visual person, you can also do things like adding an extra section for debt. So instead of putting your minimum student loan or credit card payments in your recurring expenses or needs, you can create a separate section for debt to really focus on paying that debt off. You may even want to consider putting your income below your expenses. This is something that I, again, started doing when I first started budgeting because I wasn't trying to figure out, how much of my income can I put towards different things? I was like, what am I spending money on and how can I actually make my income meet my spending? So remember, if you don't really know how to fill in this budget yet because you haven't tracked your spending, download my free tracker in the description box below. Or if you're looking for other small but really significant things to make you feel like, yeah, I'm saving money, I'm taking action with my personal finances, and you haven't watched my first video, then definitely check that out too. If this video was helpful to you, then please let me know by giving it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments, what did you like? What do you want to learn more of? What questions do you have? I want to hear it. Thanks, and I'll see you next week.